Before we start, please make sure to like this video and hit this subscribe button, so you never miss a story like this. And also comments where you are watching from, how many sons and daughters you have. Thanks.
My name is Claire Thompson. I'm from Seattle, and I've always believed one thing: the moment you betray the person who stood by you, you've already lost the most valuable thing in your life. 65 years old and acting like a teenager, I shouted, my voice trembling with rage as I slammed the phone on the counter. You think she makes you feel young? She's laughing at you, Mark. His face flushed red, but not from shame, from anger. At least she doesn't nag me like you do. That cut deep. But in that moment, I knew this fight wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something he'd never forget. You don't get to talk to me like that, I fired back, my hands shaking, not from fear, but from the sheer betrayal boiling inside me. I was here when you had nothing, when you were driving that beat-up Ford and couldn't pay the bills. I built this life with you. He scoffed, leaning back like my words were just noise. And now I'm supposed to live like I'm in a retirement home, Claire? No. I still have a life to live. My chest tightened. A life to live, with a girl young enough to be your granddaughter? He slammed his fist on the table, making the coffee cups rattle. Don't you dare make this about her age. She sees me. She listens to me. She makes me feel alive again. My laugh was sharp, bitter. She makes you feel alive? No, Mark. She makes you feel like a fool, and you're too blind to see it. He got up, towering over me, trying to intimidate me like he used to in the old days when he knew I'd back down. But I didn't flinch. You've changed, he growled. You used to be sweet. Fun. Now you're just cold. I took a deep breath, my voice low but steady. I'm not cold, Mark. I'm just done being the woman who waits at home while her husband plays pretend with someone half his age. His eyes narrowed, and for a moment I saw something flicker, guilt, maybe. Before it disappeared under a mask of arrogance. You're overreacting. It's harmless. I stepped closer until I could feel the heat of his breath. Harmless? You've been taking her to restaurants we used to celebrate anniversaries at. You've been buying her jewelry with our money. You've been telling her things you haven't told me in years. That's not harmless. That's a betrayal. He tried to walk past me, but I blocked the doorway. You think you can just walk out? You think you can run to her right now and everything will be fine? My voice cracked, not from weakness, but from holding back years of resentment. No, Mark. You've been running long before she came into the picture. Running from me, from us, from the promises you made. He threw his hands up. Oh, here we go. The martyr speech. Poor Claire, the perfect wife who never did anything wrong. I felt my jaw clench. You're right. I wasn't perfect. But I was loyal. And in case you forgot, loyalty is worth more than whatever thrill you're chasing in that girl's smile. For a moment, the room went silent, just the sound of the clock ticking between us. He looked away, his shoulders stiff. You're jealous. I almost laughed at the absurdity. Jealous? No, Mark. I'm heartbroken. I'm disgusted. And I'm starting to realize that maybe the man I married doesn't exist anymore. His face hardened. You'll regret saying that. I stepped aside, my voice calm now, almost eerie in its steadiness. No, Mark. You will. As he grabbed his coat and stormed toward the door, I caught sight of something in his jacket pocket, a small velvet box. My stomach twisted. So, you're really going to do it, I said quietly. He froze. Do what? I pointed at the pocket. Propose to her. Trade in 40 years for 40 minutes of feeling young. His jaw tightened, but he didn't answer. He left without another word, slamming the door so hard the picture frames rattled on the wall. I stood there, the silence pressing down on me, my breath uneven. That was the moment I knew, this wasn't just an affair. This was war. And if he thought I was going to sit quietly and watch him throw our life away, he was about to find out just how dangerous it is to underestimate the woman who built him. I grabbed my phone, scrolling through the messages he thought he'd deleted. The dinner reservations. The can't wait to see you tonight texts. The hotel receipts. Every piece of evidence that proved what he was doing. My hands stopped shaking. My breathing steadied. A strange calm settled over me. This wasn't the end of my story. It was the start of his reckoning. Because Mark didn't know one thing, I wasn't just going to expose him to her. I was going to expose her to him. And when the truth came out, the young girl who made him feel alive would be the one to bury his pride. And me? I'd be standing there, watching it all happen. The night after our fight, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint ticking of the clock in the hallway. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Mark's face, smug, defiant, like he'd already decided I was nothing but a chapter in his past. But here's the thing, I wasn't going to fade quietly into some forgotten page. No. If he wanted to burn our marriage down, then I was going to make sure he was standing in the middle when the flames caught. I started with her name. I'd only heard it once, in a hushed phone call he didn't think I could hear, but it was enough. Sophie. Young, sweet voice. The kind that sounds like it's never been told no before. I typed it into his email, into his contacts, into a few social media searches. And there she was, perfectly staged photos, big doe eyes, lips always slightly parted like she was posing for a magazine cover. I could almost see the way she'd tilt her head and pretend to be impressed by Mark's stories of his wild younger days. Scrolling deeper, I found the cracks. Comments from other men. Pictures from nights out that didn't line up with the excuses she was probably feeding Mark. A video of her with another guy, younger, handsome, leaning in close while she laughed. And that was when my plan started forming, piece by piece, as clear as if I'd been preparing it for years. The next morning, I cooked breakfast like nothing had happened. Bacon, eggs, coffee, the works. When Mark shuffled into the kitchen, he looked surprised. "What's all this?" he asked, suspicion lacing his voice. I smiled, not the warm smile he knew, but one just a shade too polite. "Just thought I'd do something nice for my husband." He eyed me for a moment, then sat down, acting like he'd won something. He didn't notice me slipping his phone from the counter while I refilled his coffee. By the time he left for a meeting, I had every message between him and Sophie saved. Every emoji, every kiss, every little "I wish you were here." And I had something better, a date and time. Their next dinner. I could feel the adrenaline in my veins, not from heartbreak this time, but from power. For the first time in months, maybe years, I was in control. I booked my own reservation at the same restaurant, just a table away from theirs. I even bought a new dress, not for him, not to compete with her, but because I wanted to feel sharp. Dangerous. Like a woman who knew exactly what she was walking into. The night came faster than I expected. I arrived early, my heart pounding, my hands steady. I saw them before they saw me, a Mark in his best suit, the one I'd bought him for our anniversary. Sophie, all glitter and gloss, laughing too loud as she touched his arm. I almost laughed. He looked like a man trying to wear a mask that didn't fit. When the waiter seated me, I made sure I was angled just enough so Mark would catch sight of me. And he did. His face drained of color, his smile faltered, and Sophie turned to see what had caught his attention. I lifted my wine glass in a slow, deliberate toast. That was the moment I saw it, a flicker of fear in his eyes. But I wasn't here just to scare him. I was here to make sure the young girl who thought she'd stolen him understood exactly what she'd won, and what she was about to lose. The clink of silverware and the low hum of conversation surrounded us, but for me, the world had narrowed down to that one table. Mark, trying to act unbothered, and Sophie, glancing between us like she'd stumbled into a scene she wasn't ready for. I stood up slowly, every eye at my table following me as I crossed the room. I didn't rush, didn't raise my voice, not yet. I wanted every person in that restaurant to watch, to feel the electricity before the storm hit. "Claire," Mark said when I reached them, his voice tight. "What are you doing here?" I tilted my head, giving him a smile that had no warmth in it. "Oh, I'm just here for dinner. But then I saw you, with your friend. Thought I'd say hello." Sophie's lips parted in a small, polite smile, but there was something guarded in her eyes. "Hi," she said softly. I leaned in just enough for her to hear me over the din of the room. "Enjoying the jewelry? You picked an expensive taste for someone who isn't paying for it." Her smile froze, and Mark's jaw tightened. "That's enough," he hissed under his breath, but I straightened, my voice carrying just enough for the nearby tables to hear. "Oh, I'm just making conversation. After all, I know a lot about you, Sophie. Like how last Friday, you were telling some guy named Jason you couldn't wait to see him again." The way her eyes widened was all the confirmation I needed. Mark whipped his head toward her. "What is she talking about?" Sophie shook her head quickly, stammering, "She's lying," but I cut her off, my tone sharper now. "Am I? Should I show him the video? The one where you're dancing so close to Jason it's a miracle you didn't fall into his lap?" The murmur of other diners grew louder. People were watching now, forks suspended midair, waiters pretending to rearrange silverware so they could listen. Mark's face was turning red, a mix of humiliation and rage. "Claire, we are not doing this here," he growled. I folded my arms. "Oh, we're doing it here. You wanted to parade her around in public, Mark? Then let the public see what you're really buying." I glanced at Sophie, my eyes cold. Because the thing about chasing youth, sweetheart, is that it doesn't stay loyal. It just looks for the next wallet. Sophie shot to her feet, her chair scraping the floor. "I don't have to listen to this," she snapped, grabbing her purse. But before she could leave, I leaned in and said quietly, "Better grab that necklace too. It won't mean much when he takes it back tomorrow." She stormed out, her heels clicking like gunshots against the marble floor. Mark stayed seated for a moment, staring at the tablecloth, his hands gripping the edge. When he finally looked up at me, there was no anger left, just the stunned realization that the little fantasy he'd built had crumbled in front of an audience. I straightened my dress, glanced at the onlookers, and said in a calm, clear voice, "Enjoy your dinner, Mark. Alone." Then I walked back to my table, my spine straight, my heartbeat steady. But as I sat down, I knew this wasn't over. No, the public humiliation was just the first strike. The real blow was still coming. Mark didn't come home that night. I didn't expect him to. I pictured him pacing in some cheap hotel room, replaying every word I'd said in the restaurant, wondering how much I really knew. The truth was, I knew more than he could imagine, and I hadn't even used the worst of it yet. The next morning, I was sipping coffee when I heard the front door open. He stepped in, looking exhausted, like the night had drained him. His tie was loose, his hair disheveled, his eyes heavy. He didn't speak right away, just stood there in the kitchen doorway, staring at me like he wasn't sure if he should apologize or fight again. "Claire," his voice was quieter now, almost hesitant. "Can we talk?" I set my mug down slowly. "Oh, now you want to talk? What happened to all that I still have a life to live bravado?" He winced, rubbing the back of his neck. "I made a mistake." A bitter laugh escaped me. "Which part?" "Cheating on me, lying to me, or wasting our savings on a girl who was probably texting someone else while she was with you." He didn't meet my eyes. "All of it." For a moment, I just watched him, letting the silence stretch. He was used to me rushing in to fix things, to smooth over his bad decisions, to forgive him before he even asked. But not this time. This time, I wanted him to feel the weight of it. You know what hurts the most, Mark? I finally said. It's not that you cheated. It's that you thought you could. That you thought I'd just swallow it and keep smiling. I took a slow step toward him. You've been treating me like furniture in this house for years, something you barely notice until it's gone. Well, guess what? You're about to find out what life is like without me. His eyes snapped to mine, panic flickering there. Wait. Claire, you can't. I held up a hand. I can. And I will. Because you didn't just break my trust, Mark. You broke the one thing I thought we still had, respect. I let that sink in before adding, and you should know something. Sophie wasn't my first clue. She was just the last straw. I've been watching you for months. And I know things that could end more than just our marriage. The color drained from his face. What are you talking about? I smiled faintly, but it wasn't a kind smile. You'll find out soon enough. But for now, you can pack a bag. And this time, I won't be the one waiting for you to come back. He stood there frozen, like he couldn't decide if I was bluffing or about to drop a bomb on his entire life. He had no idea that I'd already set things in motion, and that the real shock was still ahead. 3 weeks passed without a single word from Mark. Not a call. Not a text. I knew he was still in town because our joint bank account kept bleeding, hotel charges, bar tabs, late-night restaurants. The kind of desperate spending a man does when he's trying to distract himself from a reality he doesn't want to face. But I wasn't sitting at home crying into my pillow. I was moving. Quietly. Deliberately. I'd already transferred my share of the savings into my own account, changed the locks, and put the house in my name alone, something I'd done months ago, after he missed 2 mortgage payments without telling me. The papers had been waiting in a drawer, just in case. The final piece came together when my lawyer confirmed what I'd suspected: the retirement account wasn't just in his name. My name was on it too. Which meant when I filed for divorce, half of it would be mine. But that wasn't the real win. No, the real win came from the file I kept in a manila envelope. Printouts of emails, photos, bank statements, and the biggest surprise of all, Sophie's messages to another man. Not just flirty texts. Explicit conversations about how she was only with Mark until he handed over the property. One of those messages included details about the deal he'd been working on for months, details he'd only told me and her. Which meant she wasn't just cheating on him, she was feeding information to someone else. I sent those messages directly to the board of the company where Mark was still a silent partner. Within 48 hours, they froze his involvement pending investigation. His investment, his influence, his reputation, gone. Just like that. When he finally showed up at my door, he didn't look angry anymore. He looked broken. Claire, he said, his voice hoarse. You ruined me. I stepped into the doorway, meeting his eyes without flinching. No, Mark. You ruined yourself. I just made sure you couldn't ruin me along with you. He shook his head, almost in disbelief. You've changed. I smiled, a real smile this time, but not for him. No, Mark. I finally remembered who I was before I spent decades shrinking myself to fit your ego. As he walked away, I felt no pity, no regret. The man who thought a young girl could make him feel young again had lost her, his money, and his pride, all in one blow. And me? I walked back inside, poured myself a glass of wine, and sat in the home I now owned outright. Because here's the thing, youth fades, beauty shifts, but character? That's what lasts. And when you trade that away for a cheap thrill, don't be surprised when the thrill turns out to be the most expensive mistake of your life.